Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all of the praises to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushua, Ba'ashim Rakak Wadash, and double honor to the apostles of the great millstone, and salutations to the Yakim out there that continue to further this ministry throughout the four corners of the earth. And shalom to those that are learning and listening and growing thereby as well. All of the house of David, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua Brakatah. All right, and I just want to speak on something that is highly likely to take place in the future, and that's inflation, or should I say hyperinflation. And I want to first begin in reading this article here that I found through the Spirit. And it says, brace yourselves for the most dramatic shift in the standard of living in all of U.S. history. They are assuring us, and this was written by Michael Schneider a couple of days ago, was publicated. So anyway, it says they are assuring us that we don't have to be concerned about inflation because they have everything under control. Do you believe them? The value of the dollar has been steadily declining for a long time, and most Americans have grown accustomed to having the cost of living rise at a faster pace than their paychecks do. But over the past 12 months, an enormous paradigm shift has begun. Instead of devaluing our currency a little bit at a time, now our leaders are going full Weimar. You know what that means. You know, those of you brothers that are into a little bit of the history in Germany, and if they keep printing more money and more money as they did back in the past, when Ben Bernanke was in office, when he was chief executive, I believe, of the Federal Reserve Bank, there was a whole lot of quantitative easing, and I have the history right here, and showing, as you can see, quantitative easing 1, or QE1, which began in, December of 2008 to March 2010, and then you had quantitative easing, which begun in November 2010 to June 2011, so and beyond. They've been printing more money and more money, and as time went on, in terms of your gas, in terms of your in terms of buying houses, and or even buying your cars, just buying anything, you've witnessed things going up in price, getting more expensive, and it was all due to the fact that the people that are in charge of the value of the currency have printed more money as time went on, and this is why you have what you have today. This is why life is more expensive to live than it was in the past, because of all of this quantitative easing, printing more money, which brings about devaluing the dollar or whatever currency that people are using. So the more you devalue a currency, the more the prices of your goods skyrocket, because it just basically represents the strength of your currency, that it's weak, basically. The weaker the currency, the more expensive things become. Just a basic way of, explaining it to you brothers, and if you sisters that don't know about, how currency works. But anyway, let's go back and read some more on this. So it says, our money supply is growing at an exponential rate, and this is becoming a major national crisis, as I pointed out yesterday. It took from the founding of our county all the way to 2020 for M1 to reach $4 trillion. But then from the start of the pandemic today, M1 has gone from $4 trillion to $18 trillion. To call that economic malpractice would be way too kind. The truth is that it is a completely utter lunacy, and we are all going to literally pay the price for such madness. Sadly, inflation is already starting to show up in major ways all throughout our economy. For example, most Americans have noticed that the prices of gasoline has really started to shoot up over the last several weeks. Gas prices have been increasing at the pump for the past few weeks, reaching a national average of $2.77 a gallon as of Monday, which is 39 cents higher than the same time in 2020, according to the AAA. And a lot of people are alarming by this, but the Federal Reserve insists that this is completely normal. And the reason why they're saying it's completely normal because, as we all should know already, these people that are in charge of the Federal Reserve banking system, they're nothing more than Masons. And the agenda of these Masons is to cause hysteria, to cause confusion, disorder, or should I say, order out of chaos. So cause confusion and then set up a new system. As Klaus Schwab coined it, the Great Reset. Because the ultimate goal is to reset the system. Which in other words can also mean setting up a new world order system. And that's the agenda. So let's just pretty much print as much money as possible. And let's give stimulus checks to American citizens as much as we can. And, people would actually think that the government's helping them and supporting them in that fact, when in all reality, printing all of this money and just giving money to just random people and even people that don't need the money, all it's going to do is it's just going to mess up the economy. And the price of living is going to go up. And this is why you have a lot of people homeless on the streets and people having to work several of different jobs just so they can get by and by. Because really, like I said, it's the currency. Now, back in the 1950s, the middle of the 20th century, it only took one person to have a job. And that one person or that one man, because at the time, women weren't really allowed in the working force in these days. But anyway, it only took one man to provide one household. He was doing really well in taking care of his household and having to pay his rent and his bills. Because at the time, as I've explained, concerning the condition of the currency at the time was very strong, very, very potent. So this is why you only needed the job to just take care of everything. But nowadays you need like 2 to 3 jobs just to get through the life, And that's all due to the deducting of the currency, which is what they're doing by purpose. So anyway, meanwhile, the price of agricultural commodities has risen by 50%, and that's a lot over the past year. Man, whoa. The price of agricultural commodities traded on the global stage has shot up by 50% since the middle of 2020, according to the economists at Rabobank. In a new report, the bank pins and lifts in the price of wheat, corn, soy, sugar, and the range of other commodities on the Northern La Nina, a weakening U.S. currency, market speculators, and rising demand from importing nations. Exactly. So, yeah, like I said before, your food is going to go up. All right? That's what happens. And if they keep doing this to the dollar, if they keep printing more and more and more money and just giving money away like it's nothing, then you won't be able to use that currency to buy things anymore, because the currency is going to just get so weak to where everything is just going to skyrocket in price, and you're going to be wondering what the fuck just happened. You see, and them days are coming. Them days are coming and surely. Okay? So anyway, let's read some more. It says, and those prices are passed along to the consumers, and you will be paying more for groceries at your local supermarket, but authorities assure us that prices will stabilize once the economy returns to normal. And the economy would never turn to normal. It's too far gone. Even before COVID, the economy was already down and pretty much out before the COVID situation had occurred. Like I've showed you the history of the Federal Reserve on how they've basically did QEs throughout the years. You see, so this is the thing, man. This is why life has been so expensive for the past couple of years, And going back to this article, as they say, it's normal for the currency to weaken and that the economy returns back to normal. But no, the economy was never really right to begin with, especially beginning with the crash of '08. After the crash of '08, things just started going downhill gradually. And it's just gotten a lot worse now. And it's going to get even more worse as time progresses. So let's read this. It says, now this is some serious inflation. There are so many people that have had to put their plans to build a home on hold in recent months because of the price of lumber has gotten so ridiculously high. But the experts at the Fed insist that those that are warning of hyperinflation just have wild imaginations. Over the course of the past year, our leaders have pumped trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars into the system. And all of that money has to go somewhere. In such a highly inflationary environment, this sort of thing can happen. So, I mean, this is why the American dollar is basically nothing right now, because of the fact that they've been pumping, as I've just read, trillions and trillions of dollars. That's a whole lot of printed money. And this is what they were doing in ancient Rome. This is how you know that America and the EU is nothing more altogether the revival version of the Roman Empire, man. Let me read this to you, brothers, and a few sisters real quick. So anyway, it says, did inflation collapse the Roman Empire? And before I read that, let me just read the scripture here real quick. It says, this is 1 Timothy 6, verse 17. Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in a living power who give us richly in all things to enjoy. Yeah, because you have these celebrities and these people have made a name for themselves in this world. And I've seen rappers and boxers, like, for example, Floyd Mayweather, show their money, how much money they getting and all of that stuff. But, had these people have had some kind of knowledge of the money that they have, they would realize that it's not necessarily a good thing to be, flaunting yourself with all of that cash, because there's gonna come a time where all of that cash that you've been flaunting and showing off about, it's gonna amount to nothing. And a lot of you just are gonna realize that. A lot of you just are gonna realize, why is life so goddamn expensive? What's going on? Because the money you have in your hand has just been weakened extremely. So you could have millions and millions of dollars in your account, right? And yet and still, you're not going to be able to make it through the week, because potentially what's getting ready to come, if they keep printing more of this money, is hyperinflation, where the prices of your goods skyrocket. All right? Them times are coming. And they're doing this by purpose. I'm talking about those that are backing the Federal Reserve. This is what they want. They want to collapse the whole entire system by purpose, to come with another reset. So all of you guys out there that's got this a large amount of money or currency or dollars, it's gonna go to nothing, basically. All right. The society is going to hell in a handbasket. Just put it that way. So anyway, now we're gonna get into this. Excuse me, where was it? Yeah, right here. We're gonna get into this. So anyway, it says, did inflation collapse the Roman Empire? The decline of the Roman Empire can be better understood by examining the perfect storm of problems it faced, some of which had to do with basic economics, almost as destructive as the sharp weapons wielding by the Goths and the Vandals. Hyperinflation was calamitous for the empire. It says, the Rome economic woes began with its coins. Unlike the modern era, where the value of the currency depends on being linked to gold reserves or consumer confidence, during the early days of the empire, the denarius was made of real silver. Under fiscally responsible leadership and a thriving economy, this monetary system worked well for much of Roman history. Unfortunately, when growth began to slow around 200 AD, the state's attempts to stimulate the market were disastrous. The end of the road. After the dust of the civil wars had settled, Rome enjoyed 2 centuries of economic prosperity with its advanced road network opening trade across the known world. But the boom couldn't last forever. The Romans slowly started running out of new territory and hence some fresh revenue streams. A plague from 165 to 180 AD didn't help. The population shrank and prices soared. Other inflationary factors include the movement towards a cash-based society. Elite had previously traded more with land and rising public spending on infrastructures and the military. So this is the point. Hyperinflation. Faced with mounting costs and a dearth of new sources of wealth, Rome responded by hiking up taxes, and that's what's going on right now, on its citizens and devaluing the currency. One denarius previously held roughly 4.5 grams of real silver. Roman officials who controlled the minting of coins slowly began adding impurities to improve government liquidity. More and more coins entered in circulation, each time becoming less pure. So they kept mining more coins as the time went on. And as time went on, that's when inflation occurred, because it was too much mining of the coins that they was bringing. Okay, at the time. There was too many mining of coins that were being circulated. So eventually, this is one of the reasons as to why the ancient Roman Empire failed. One of the great reasons as to why. So to put this in perspective, under the reign of Augustus 27 BC to 14 AD, the denarius was about 95% silver, but by 265 AD, this was down to 0.5 Rome silver coinage and had become almost worthless. Price controls. Hyperinflation was crippling the economy. The Emperor Diocletian came to power in 284 AD and attempted to curb the free fall, and he introduced the price controls in 301 AD. But this only drove consumers to the black market. He also introduced a new silver coin called the Argentius, with one coin equal to 50 of the old denarii. But within a decade, one Argentius would be worth 100 denarii. Despite Diocletian's best efforts, Rome's toxic inflationary cycle would continue. You see, so they kept bringing forth more coins, kept on mining more coins, to the point where the denarii, which was the main currency that they were using prior before they brought this one in, it became worthless. Okay, so that was the fall of this Roman Empire. Was due to the fact that they was printing more. Basically, I'll use the term print. They were printing more coins until they couldn't print any coins anymore, and that's what drove down the currency, the power of the currency, and therefore hyperinflation occurred. You see, and that's why all hell was breaking loose in the ancient Roman Empire as well as you have it right now. You have people protesting and complaining and moaning about so many different issues. And this is what was going on in ancient Rome. And this is what's going on right now. So this got to be as what prophecy has it to be. Pursuant to the book of Daniel's, the 7th chapter, and also Revelations, the 20th chapter, where it talks about the deadly wound of that beast was healed, meaning this got to be the revival version of the Roman Empire coming back all over again, because what happened, what brought Rome down is what's bringing this revival of this Roman system down. Hyperinflation. And also, while hyperinflation was going on, there was also increasing in tax. And that's going on in this day. Or should I say, the days that we're living in right now, in this Roman system. You see, so now I want to get into this right here, because Biden and his peoples are looking to studying if they could repair so-called African Americans with reparations. So it says, Biden backs studying reparations as Congress considers bill. Washington, President Joe Biden's White House has given its support to studying reparations for Black Americans, which were not black, were different shades of brown, and realistically, the so-called black Americans and Israelites of the tribe of Judah, boosting the Democratic lawmakers who are renewing efforts to create a commission on the issue amid the stark racial disparities highlighted by the COVID-19 pandemic. A House panel heard testimony Wednesday on legislation that would create a commission to examine the history of slavery in the U.S., as well as the discriminatory government policies that affected former slaves and their descendants. The commission would recommend ways to educate the American public of its finding and suggest appropriate remedies, including financial payments from the government to compensate descendants of slaves for years of unpaid labor by their ancestors. And they don't have the money to do that. The only way that they can do that is by printing more money. So if they print more money, that means they have to give probably like millions in reparations. They have to give millions because basically, as they call us African Americans, we're a nation of people. So what supports a nation? Jobs, land, banks as well. A nation has to have its own banking system. So to build a nation back, it would pretty much go into the hundreds of millions, man, or probably more than that. And they don't got the money to do it. They do not have the money to do this kind of thing. And that's why highly likely this will not be done. But let's just say if the federal government decides to do this kind of thing, it's going to drive the American economy down to hell furthermore. All right. And too, anything's possible. They could give money to so-called black people for reparations. They could actually do this just so they can furtherly destroy the economy. But naturally, they don't got the money to do that. Okay. So there's another thing I want to talk about is the Biden stimulus plan means for the U.S. dollar. So let's get into this. It says, what does Biden's stimulus plan mean for the U.S. dollar? Markets are forward-looking. This may be the opportunity to buy the fact. On Thursday evening, President-elect Joe Biden unveils a $1.9 trillion stimulus package to help Americans due to the economic impact of the coronavirus. The package includes an additional $1,400 in direct payments per person, which would result in a $2,000 amount President Trump was asking. Biden will have an easier path to pass his stimulus bill than President Trump, as Democrats will control both of the House and the Senate comes January the 20th. In addition, according to the New York Times, Biden's stimulus plan will also include $440 billion to help local officials fight the virus, $160 billion in a national vaccine program, and $130 billion for schools, extension of unemployment benefits through September. Early forecast of the size of the stimulus package was for $1.5 trillion. Bumping it up to $1.9 trillion will help Biden in the negotiation with Republicans. What will a package of this size mean for the U.S. dollar? Although the amount is less than the $3.4 trillion in aid from the HEROES Act, an amount with trillions is still significant since the pandemic hit the U.S. in full force in March. The abundance of both monetary and fiscal stimulus has helped weaken the U.S. dollar index from a high 103 to recent low at 89. So again, why is this going to weaken? Why could this very well weaken the American dollar? Because they're going to have to print more sheets, okay? Print more money in to the bank, and that's what's going to happen. So, yeah, he's going to give out all of this money, but what is it going to result into? Hyperinflation eventually. That's where it's going. And I mean, I don't really need to go into any more. I think I've made my point quite clear. I'm going to read one more scripture, and I'm going to be done with this. So every American is basically going to get 1,400 quid, pretty much. And even those that don't need the money, they're going to get that. So anyway, let's get let me see if I can find something else as well. Uh, right, I wanted to get this because I just got done reading Biding Studies Reparations. That article I was getting to, this one here. So I just want to read this. Joel 2 and 25, and I will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten, the cankerworm and the caterpillar, and the palm worm, my great army which I send among you. So this is referring to the other nations that have robbed us. It's not literal. It's not referring to locusts and cankerworms and caterpillars. This is referring to the other nations. So the Lord is going to restore every single thing that has been stolen from us of these other nations. All right, that's what that means. Verse 26, and ye shall eat in plenty and be satisfied and praise the name of the Lord your power that have dealt wondrously with you, and my people shall never be ashamed. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your power and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed. So the Lord is going to be the one to restore us back to what we once were. And we're going to receive goods abundantly. And you can read that in the book of Isaiah, the 60th chapter, which Isaiah 60 explains on how we're going to get so much goods from these other nations. And then in the book of Ezekiel 39, it talks about how we shall suck the breast of the kings. In other words, we're going to take their goods and their resources and their wine. So that's what it means on how the Lord is going to restore the years that the locusts have eaten, the cankerworm and the caterpillar and the palm worm, and my great army which I send among you. All right, meaning the other nations, we're going to get everything back what was stolen from us of these other nations in abundance and much more. So we don't need to worry about getting reparations from these devils. We need to be concerned about seeking the Lord's return so that we can be saved and that we can be restored officially, because these people ain't going to do it. All right, according to the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, and also 68, it says that no man shall deliver you or redeem you. In other words, no man is going to save us out of our captivity or the curse that comes upon us. But the Lord, he will do all of that. And speaking of that, let me just get something else. This is Zephaniah 3 and 19. Behold, at that time I will undo that afflict thee, and I will save her that halteth, and gather her that was driven out. And I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. And that's kind of happening right now, but it's going to more so happen when we're delivered and the nations get to see the miraculous salvation from our power. Because when you really think about it, it was the Lord that allowed these other nations to come up against us. And that was the Lord's way of showing his anger towards us. So the Lord, he's going to pull back the curses. He's going to pull back everything that have brought us down. All right? Because it was him that did it, and it's going to be him that's going to bring everything back in order. And by him, we're going to be restored as a nation. So there you have it right there, you know. And I mean, I can go on and on and on, but I just want to, just for the sake of time, close out and do another video, because I have another video in my mind that I want to do, that I want to get over. So with that, I want to give all of the praise to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh Bashmiao Shai Bashma Rakak Radash. And with that, I say Shalom.